Welcome back to the Ehuntr podcast, everybody. Back again with another great podcast for you guys this week. Loving these podcasts. Hopefully you guys are as well. On today's episode, I have a really special guest. This is a new platform, a new company that has developed recently to kind of help hunters and wildlife have a voice in the world. It's called Howl For Wildlife. I'm sure most of you guys have probably seen them jump up on different things on different social media platforms, but I really just wanted to know kind of what was the background on this? How did this whole thing develop? What's the plan with this thing? How can we help them be more successful and let our voice be heard out there as hunters? And so, anyways, excited to have them on and be able to chat and, again, just get to know them a little bit more and get to know the company a little bit better. So if you guys have any questions for them, make sure and leave a comment down below. A lot of our guests are looking at those comments and questions, so make sure and leave those comments and questions below. We'd be happy to answer those questions where we can. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into this podcast with Howl For Wildlife. All right, guys, welcome back to the Ehuntr podcast. Excited about today's podcast. As always, we love these podcasts. They're fantastic. We're getting a lot of good news out there for you all, a lot of good information, whether it be about hunting news, about hunting companies, just the industry in general, and hopefully we're bringing a lot of entertainment to you as well. I'm stoked about this podcast. This is a newer brand or newer company that I've become associated with lately and really followed their stuff. As you guys all well know, on Ehuntr, we're posting a lot about different bills that are coming out or different legislation that's being introduced or whatever. And so when this company introduced themselves to the hunting industry, it was one that really caught our eye because it's an area that we can really focus on and utilize at Ehuntr, but then also something that we just want to put some more attention into and something that we feel like needs more attention. So the company is Howl For Wildlife. If you guys haven't seen them on social media, definitely check them out. We'll talk more about that later. But on the podcast today, I have Charles with the Howl For Wildlife. Charles, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing? Thank you. Taryn, right? Is that how I say it?
Yep, Taryn.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've got a very different name. Thanks, Mom, for that.
Hey, my last name is Whitwam, so there's a lot of like, what the heck's a Whitwam? So I've thought about changing it to Whitman because it just seems a lot easier for people, and I get it because it's a weird name.
You notice I didn't say it when I introduced you because I knew I was going to jack it up. So Whitwam, that's how you say it?
Whitwam. Yep. Man. I think it used to be Whittam, but there was an H.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's WHITWAM, but it used to be WHITWHAM.
Oh wow.
I don't know.
That's crazy.
Whatever. People sailed over to the United States and they change a name slightly and somehow you're a different person. I don't know.
That's what they thought anyways. They thought they could change a name and they're not related to or associated with the people that had that other last name. So
yeah.
It's funny, we have Whitmans that live down the street, and when I first saw your name, I thought it was Whitman. I was like, oh, I wonder if they're related, and then I had to double check there. I was like, oh yeah, that's a different name. So probably related somewhere down the line. Yeah. So Charles, well, let's kick this off by just you telling us a little bit about who you are, and we'll get into Hal here in just a minute, but tell us about who you are, where you're at, what you do, those kind of fun things.
So I am in California. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have an event business out here that I've been doing since 2006.
Nice.
I moved here in 2005, actually from Chicago. I was there for a few years, but I grew up in Michigan for, I think, still most of my life, or maybe it's about even now, 20 some years in Michigan. And I also guide for wild pigs, deer, turkey out here in California.
Wow.
I do that when I have time. The last 2 years I've had a lot of time because COVID, and I have an event business. So
yeah, not many events going on during COVID.
No events. So I did a lot more guiding. And now it's just, I generally have 5 months off a year anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I'll do a lot of hunting or guiding. But that's also why it makes sense for me to, when I started Howl, I basically have the legislative season. It's like January through April, or it depends, but I generally have that off.
Yeah.
So this works out perfect.
Yeah, you can focus your attention on Howl.
Yeah, for that circumstance, it works out perfect. But I'm definitely getting busy. April is looking really busy for me for events,
for
and
events.
all throughout the summer and everything. It's pretty crazy, and it's looks like it's going to be finally this year.
I love learning what other people do. I mean, yeah, I would love to be doing what we're doing right now full time. I'd love to be just doing Ehuntr and podcasting full time, but that's a dream maybe in the future. But at the end of the day, I got to pay the bills, and so I always enjoy hearing what everybody does to pay the bills and to make other ends meet. So
I'll,
very cool.
I'll be honest with you. If if I can do kind of what I want to do with Howl, and I mean, it has 100% been the most full-time job I have ever had.
Uh-huh.
The time that it takes. But it might be a full-time job for me someday. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see if I can get it to that point. But it definitely is a full-time job, and I need more people to do it as a full-time job as well. It's just kind of chaos, but it's been great so far.
That's kind of the way Ehuntr is, and we're digressing quickly on this, but that's the way Ehuntr is too. Like I feel like if we could just really dive into it, forget everything else, and really dive into it, it could be a full time job with a lot of people and a lot of things going on. But it's hard to take that plunge and make that commitment that hey, I'm done with the day to day job. I'm going to work on just this. I mean, it's a risk. It's a huge risk, but
It is.
it's what we love to do. And I totally see how really, really taking off and being something big and amazing. And so let's jump into that a little bit. Charles, tell us a little bit about how, I guess let's talk about the inception of how, why you wanted to start it, what it does. Let's get into it a little bit.
So why I wanted to start it was I was involved in a couple of bills on sort of just a personal grassroots level where I didn't like them in California, and I didn't really see anybody else getting involved to the level of which I thought they should be involved. So I took it upon myself to get people involved, and through that process, I have no background in politics or anything legislative or anything like that, but through that process, I learned about decision makers on each bill. So if there's a bill, there are a certain number of people, and that changes depending on where that bill sits. It moves through committees and goes through houses and senates and wildlife committees, all of that. So there's specific people at a certain time who are making decisions on the process to either kill the bill, keep it going, or whatnot. So like, oh, that's interesting. And I looked at action centers on a lot of hunting organizations websites and whatnot, and how those worked, and I'm just like, I they're not getting to the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are getting to the right people, you have to live in the locality of the person that they're trying to reach. So it just seemed, I'm like, they can be better than that. And so that's what I looked into creating, is a way for I started using change.org. That's what I used last year on the bear bill, to ban bear hunting in California. And I noticed on there, I could set it up to go to who I wanted it to go to, and multiple people. And I'm like, well, we now have people involved with voicing their concerns on this bill from all over the place. It's just set up the right way.
Yeah.
So I modeled it sort of after that, at least the, reaching the right people. At least that was the goal, right? I mean, that's what I wanted to do. So I started looking for software and, different websites where I could do that. And there wasn't anything like that. So I found a few different programs and kind of Frankensteined them together to work to also, to accomplish, basically, if there's a bill, anybody can take action on it, and it's going to reach the right people. And how do I make it so it's not a form letter? So it's not just like a ton of people saying the exact same thing.
Right.
So I wanted to randomize the content, make it so it doesn't come from us whatsoever. It's just a relationship between you as a user and the decision maker, right? So it's just connecting you with them directly and starting that relationship. And then I wanted to incentivize the whole process to get the hunting industry more involved and just open up those avenues. So I gamified the website as well. So basically you have a login, and we can, award you points for everything you do, whether it's actions or sharing actions or recruiting people in, donating, whatnot. You build a threshold of points that automatically enter you into winning prizes, basically. So with all of that, we can do a lot of things. So I finally, got that somewhat built, and sort of experimented with launching it for an action that was going on in Arizona. There wasn't really that much going on yet.
Yeah.
So we launched it on January 11th in Arizona. And I think that week there was like 4 or 5 other big bills that popped up. And I was like, oh man,
Here we go.
here we go. So, and then here we are, and it's just been growing absolutely insanely ever since January 11th. So 2 months and 1 week. And here I am basically talking about it every day. It's growing every day. We have new bills all the time. Bills are in, getting through different processes every day. So keeping people updated on that. We have well over 500,000 actions between individuals to decision makers in that time period. Yesterday it was 526,000. So I don't know what it is today, but I know it's definitely more. So, and that's with just a handful of people, honestly, because, we're not not everybody knows about us.
Right.
It's just a handful of people that have honestly been able to accomplish that. And it's been an incredible 2 months, but the way I see it is, all right, well, it's going to be an incredible 2 years.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep going. And I finally have some people that, well, John Stallone's my partner in this. He's the only other person in the nonprofit right now is John Stallone.
Which we know John. He's awesome.
You do know him. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. Okay. So we have a partnership kind of sales guy, whatever, that we just started a few weeks ago, but we made it official yesterday. And then a few just like super high powered volunteers and content creators and people that are in different parts of the country that are giving me the information that I need to be able to create these actions, which is super important for me because I just can't do it on my own, and I need those partnerships. So, so that's growing, which is great. And I'm working through the paths of how all this works, how the website works, and how to make it better. Because it's certainly going to be way better. It's kind of like base wireframe, honestly, right now, but it works.
Yeah.
And when I say better, it's just going to be, it'll look better and maybe a little bit easier for you to use, but it's pretty simple. And we're going to try and keep it simple because that's the whole point.
It's pretty unique too. Like what you guys are doing is very unique. And so you kind of do need to keep it simple, especially for hunters. We need it to be simple. Otherwise we can't figure it out. So, we need something simple. We need something that can let it, that's the thing. And we've preached about this. I can't tell you how many podcasts I've done or articles I've done where I'm like telling hunters, you got to be heard. You got to get your voice out there. You've got to go to these meetings. I was living in Colorado during the time of the wolf introduction and what that was going to look like. And I'm like, everybody, you've got to go to these meetings. And then nobody shows up. Or you've got to email, even if they do email that form to their legislator, whoever it is, that was better than nothing. But I love Howl because it's so unique in that you kind of do have that direct line of contact between the hunter and the decision maker. And it's not a cookie cutter thing. It can be very personal. It can be very unique. And so their voice, their specific voice is heard. And so I'm excited to hear that you've had that much traction already in just I mean, 2 months, man. That is, you guys are still in your infancy as a nonprofit. As you think about nonprofit agencies, they normally take, years to get rolling to have really any impact. In fact, I did a podcast the other day with Joe with the Western Bear Foundation. We were talking about some of the new legislation that's going on in California, Washington, Arizona, and whatnot. And he's still kind of a one man show doing his thing, and it's been going on for a little while. It does take a lot of time for some of these things to grow some roots, but I feel like Howl is growing very quickly because it is so unique in what you're doing, and so it is exciting. Have you guys, so with the stuff that you've been able to do so far, the bills that you've been involved in so far, I mean, tell us a little bit about, like, what changes have you seen? Have you got feedback from the people that are voicing their opinions? I mean, tell us a little bit about those experiences.
Yeah. So we've gotten a lot of feedback, and what I say, I get feedback from the people who have taken action, because we aren't, the decision makers aren't giving feedback to us because they have no idea it's coming from us.
Right.
But I'm taking action as just anybody else would. So I get emails back, and then other people get other emails back that I didn't get. So, and what I mean by that is getting emails back is you email this representative, and some of it will be a canned message, thank you for whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a ton of very relevant replies that are specific to the bill that you just wrote in about, which is really important. And then some of it's even, a little more personal. I mean, I've written them back and thanked them. There was a sponsor of the mountain lion bill in Colorado to ban mountain lion hunting. She removed her name. She emailed and she said, I've decided to remove my name. I emailed her back and said, thank you. And if she wanted to talk about something, whatever. And she was like, yeah, let's schedule a time, and here's my assistant's phone number or whatnot, and we can schedule a time to talk about these issues. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, she's really paying attention. That's happened a lot. So tons of the response, the kind of the boots on the ground organizations that have recently been providing me content, they're involved in the process. Like, they're there at Capitol Hills or wherever the things are going on, and they're coming to me and they're like, man, this really works, because we've been doing this for however long, and now we have delegates from Virginia coming out and going, is this you? Is this you guys doing this? Like, what's going on? Like, our emails are flooded with tons of different people, tons of different content. And they're like, well, it's sort of us, not really though. We're
an avenue.
So we're an avenue. And what I mean by this is they're coming out, these delegates are coming out to these boots on the ground organizations and asking them, like, are you responsible for this?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to Howl. Because we don't lobby. I mean, we aren't, if I go somewhere, it's just for me to learn more and whatever, but I'm not going and saying, we are Howl for Wildlife, the organization, and we represent this many hunters and this is our platform. Like, we've taken that and basically just said, there's enough people doing that. There's enough organizations doing that. We're just giving the hunters, the sportsmen, whoever, the avenue to be their own representation, I guess. Right. To make their own voice. So, so there's really nothing that, I mean, I have my own personal views. There's nothing that Howl claims on its own, because that's not really our place. We're not, right. I don't want to be set up as an organization like that for particular reasons as well. So there's a lot to do with like tax exempt status and stuff like that we are working on. So there's some strategy there that we're working. We're basically just trying to be an educational service, so you can come to our platform and it shows you how to be more involved in the legislative process, be it through emails or calls or like Zoom training meetings, to be an active participant in wildlife committee meetings and actually show up to meetings and
Yeah.
know how it works and know what you're talking about, and giving you the confidence to make your voice heard in an intelligent manner that actually means something and has an effect on these committees.
How nitty gritty do you guys get with the legislation that you're looking at? Like, for example, Utah is doing stuff with trail cameras and scopes on muzzleloaders and stuff like that, trying to pass different regulations. And it may not necessarily, well, I guess it's a law, but there's that versus, hey, we're banning bear hunting in Washington or California. Do you do it all with Howl, or are you focused on like just bigger projects right now?
Yeah, the bigger projects. The trail camera stuff is number one. The trail camera thing in Utah was started by Ehuntr.
Yeah, it was.
I met him and I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's people on both sides of that.
Oh, there is.
That's not something for us to get involved in, because I think that causes division.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal here is to stay away from that. There's enough of that. Our goal here is on the big topics that are taking hunting away, or if there's a big topic that can promote, like in Georgia, there's some pro hunting bills that are getting passed that we're working on with getting signatures and all that on, that are having tremendous results. So like expanding trapping, no net loss of hunting lands. That's all great stuff.
Okay.
Right. That we're working on. And I feel like those are big things that secure the future of hunting.
Yeah.
What kind of sites I can use. And I elk hunt in Idaho, and I think the rules there are absolutely insane. So I'm like, hold on, I can't put a GoPro if I wanted on my bow. I can't use lighted nocks like that. What's that going to do?
Right.
It doesn't help me kill the animal any better at all. It might help me find out more.
Exactly.
So I can find my arrow and look at, but yeah, I think those things are ridiculous, but we're not going to get involved in stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just too.
And kind of to your point earlier, you're saying, you started this January 11th and you started out with just a couple things, and then all of a sudden, boom, here's these 5 huge bills that you guys are all working on. And then if you're looking at, nationwide, there's going to be enough big ticket items that I think it's going to take a lot of your time and attention, that really can, be detrimental to hunting. Or, there's some laws that are being introduced that may be considered a pro hunting thing, but may not be advantageous for an animal. It may not be the best thing for the animal. And so I hope that that's also an area that you guys are looking at to just find that middle ground, find what really truly is going to be best for wildlife. Like I said, I think there's plenty of those things around for you guys to do. So you are nationwide, right? You guys are looking pretty much anywhere and everywhere within the nation to find.
Oh yeah, bills. Yeah, and there's bills that we aren't, we're not involved with yet, just because I don't have the time to. Wow. It's like, yeah, I'm aware of this going on, and I'm aware of this going on, and people keep sending me this. And I love it. This is perfect. People are sending me bills from their state, like, can you do something about this, can you do something about that, and I try to get back with everybody. It just takes time to develop the action center, and to develop it right. I can create an alert and let people know this is going on, but to me, what's the point if you can't do anything about it?
Right.
If I'm not giving you an avenue to do something about it, then I don't know what the point is, honestly. So setting up those decision makers and all that takes a lot of time to do it right. And I'm essentially setting up each time I do it, I'm setting up 2 web pages, because they integrate together. So it just takes time.
Yeah. Selfishly, I'm glad that you did that, because like I started out talking about with Ehuntr, we do post a lot about these different bills and whatnot, but it is kind of just hey, this is what's going on. We may put in the article, here's where you can go on and send an email, or this is where you can go on and do this. But we're very kind of limited on what we can do with that, and I guess what action can come from that. And I think that's one thing that's very special about you guys, and why you guys caught our attention so much is, now when we write an article on Ehuntr, about whatever that bill is out there, we can put a link to your guys' webpage now in there if you guys are cool with that. I'm sure you are.
Yes.
To lead them back to your website, your epicenter, where they can actually do something about it and take action.
That's okay. Yeah. So back to that. I mean, that's why I wanted to do what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I keep seeing content, and then I'm like, all right, well, I can, as long as I get permission, and from some people I don't, honestly, which is unfortunate. I'm like, all right, you're creating an alert, you're creating content. Can I turn that into an action?
Yeah.
How, what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that in my eyes.
If I can't, then I got to write something on my own or find somebody else that can write it. So I'm not, so they can't say I copied their stuff or whatever. I'm not going to get into that. So of course, yeah, if you're writing something about a bill, mm-hmm. it's so much easier for us to take that and turn that into an action.
Yeah.
And that's, obviously we're only 2 months in, but that's what I really want, is to set up those partnerships and get everybody on the same page, mm-hmm. because not everybody's on the same page. Everybody works, this whole industry works in different directions. And I get it. Like I get that to certain extents, but when it comes to certain issues, like, protecting hunting rights and privileges and all of that, we have to work together.
Yeah.
It's the, so if somebody's out there offering something that can better what you have and make you actually more successful, mm-hmm. why wouldn't you take it?
Exactly.
It's a great question. And that's what I'm trying to convince people to do. It's like, listen, you don't have this, and I'm offering it to you. I'm offering you the content, credit, or whatever it is we need to do. I don't care.
Right.
We just have to win, like, as a industry. Mm-hmm. And the industry is what I look at. It's huge. It's a multi-billion-dollar, millions and millions of people, mm-hmm. all the resources in the world. And we don't centralize that when it needs to be centralized. And that's what I'm trying to do with at least these action centers, is let's engage all the millions of people and get them connected to the decision makers. Let's start there. Let's see how powerful that can be. And I'm pretty sure, I think we have shown how powerful that is in this last 2 months without anybody even knowing who we are.
Yeah. I definitely,
it's been pretty crazy.
You listen to big TV shows, big time podcasts. I'll just use the example of Joe Rogan's podcast when he has like Cameron Haynes on there, and they always talk about, hunters need to come together and do this and that and not be divided. Kind of going back to our point on the trail cameras, is you have some people over here and some people over here, and it's kind of creating that division. And you see a lot of those things happening right now. Well, I think that's the agenda of some people, is to create division amongst us as hunters or sportsmen in general. Because if they can divide us, then they can take control or make their kind of changes. But if we can bring everybody together, then we have that control. We can make those changes. And so you listen to all these big people talk about it, but when they talk about it, including myself, when I'm not saying I'm one of the big people, but when I'm talking about it, I'm just talking about it. Like I said, going back to the point, I say there's actions, or there's places that you can go to do this and that, but there's never really been that hub that I can say, go here, do this. And as hunters, we want it to be easy. Let's be honest.
Everybody. Everybody. I don't think it's just hunters. It's definitely, that's why like change.org is so successful and things mm-hmm. like it's everybody.
Yeah.
Simplicity.
Yeah, exactly. It drives us. In fact, you guys hit on two very important things for everybody, but especially as hunters, is make it simple and give out prizes. You do those two things for hunters, and we're on it.
Yeah. I mean, giving out prizes is just, I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
You go to Starbucks and they have rewards. You go to grocery stores and they have reward. I mean, I'm like, well, this seems to be, why not? You know? And so that was a sort of the motivation of that, is let's get the hunting industry, as far as advocacy, up to 2022 instead of 1980.
Exactly.
Honestly, it's like, write a letter. Somebody the other day told me they were at a meeting. I think it was like a Farm Bureau meeting or something or whatnot, and somebody passed around pad of paper to get signatures. And the guy was like, have you guys heard of Howl for Wildlife? Maybe we need to look into, you know, uh, doing things like this a little better. And
Yeah, I think
it's honestly, it's like, it's silly that, I mean, this had to be created, right? But it's not like it was just sitting there. But it's crazy to me that nobody has done this.
yeah.
I don't, and over the last year when I was creating, I'm like, someone's going to do this year,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be wasting all my time and money, because that was a big thing, was, well, a lot of time and a lot of money, because I paid for it all myself to do it all, and
it's not cheap.
I'm like, this is, somebody's going to do it. And they didn't. And I don't know if it's coming or whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if, one of these big orgs or something tries to do the same thing or whatnot. I don't know. And if they do, I hope it just betters, I hope it's not in competition. I hope it betters the entire industry.
Yeah.
I mean, that needs to be the goal here, we just keep losing and losing and losing, and I don't think there's any excuse for it. It actually kind of makes me angry.
Yep.
The way I think the strategists have been wrong.
Yep.
Some of them, at least. I don't know the whole story, but I'm just saying, the way I've seen it, it's not been done the most effective and most efficient that it can be done. That's what I would say.
Well, and to your point, we have the resources, like you're saying. This is a multi-million-dollar industry with millions and millions. Yeah, well, yeah, billion-dollar industry with millions of people in it. How do we lose? We really shouldn't lose if there was some organization to it. And to your point about whether some big name company is going to come in and try to do the same thing. What my hope is that the big name companies find Howl for Wildlife and say, hey, we don't have to recreate the wheel. This is already created. Now we have our avenue. Let's just use the avenue that's already there and push our agenda out there. And so I hope that's what you see over the next little bit. Well, you're seeing it. I mean, like you told me before we hit record, you've had so many people call to do podcasts. I mean, people are seeing that and they're coming to you to talk and get your information out there so that they can use you as an avenue.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we're now really aggressively working on raising the proper amount of funds to get this everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm not just like on my own sitting at a kitchen table, trying to figure out all this stuff and things that I don't even, honestly, stuff I don't even know about. Like I call people and like, how does this process work? I don't know. Like, I know how to set up the pages and the technology for this or whatever, but the process of bills and all that kind of, I'm learning as I go, which is great, because, I get to, I guess, speak to other people who have no idea, and they can be on the same page as me.
Right.
And then we get people involved who do know, and we can all learn together. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, there's something to that. There's a value. There's like an emotional connection that I'm seeing with the rock stars who are really involved on every action and sharing everything and getting it all out. Like they're connected to it.
Yeah.
Because they realize how important that is. And that's the way I think, the more and more people like that we get, the better it'll be. And when we can get companies to feel that way, it's which some of them are certainly starting. That's even more powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they have such a reach.
And I think, on your point, I do think there is some sentiment to it, like you said, and that's okay. I hope you know that. I feel like that as you go through this, you're going to learn along the way, and that's okay. I didn't know how to create a website. I didn't know how to do any of this junk that I'm doing now, and you just kind of learn as you go. And I think it's more special if you do it that way, especially a nonprofit organization like yourself. I think that it will be special as you watch it grow. You'll be kind of like that proud papa as it grows. I want to talk a little bit about what you have going on right now, what specific bills y'all are working on. I mean, we don't have to get into the nitty gritty of every specific bill, but I'd like to share with people, what it is you guys are working on. We talked about you are focusing on the bigger ticket items, but what are some of those things that you're working on?
Let me go to my webpage, because It makes it a lot easier for me, honestly, to look at the
Great plug.
current
Let everybody know what your website
there.
is.
Oh, well, yeah, it's howlforwildlife.org. You can do .com too, and it does the same thing. But we have right now the active actions. We have a California bill, a South Carolina bill, Colorado, Georgia, Pennsylvania, British Columbia just started in Canada, and another Georgia bill. Both of those in Georgia are pro hunting. Pennsylvania is to legalize Sunday hunting because there's like 6 states that do not have
I saw
that
that.
do not allow Sunday hunting, which is crazy to me. South Carolina is another one of those Sunday hunters. Colorado is getting I'm pretty sure this is going to pass too. It just keeps passing. We're on stage 4 of it, but it's getting the option for 7th graders to take hunter safety in middle school.
Oh.
Directed by the California Parks and Wildlife.
Okay.
And we have there's more bills that are like kind of sitting there. I'm waiting on some content. There's one for Alaska, which is a pretty big issue. There's something going on in Arizona. There's a bunch of little bills that just haven't popped up yet that have been sent my way, and I gotta see where they're at, because some of these bills, they'll be so ridiculous they just get killed right away. So it's never an issue. And then there's, I think the most controversial bill currently. Well, let me back up. There's a lot going on in Washington State. We don't have an action set up for that right now because we've sort of gone through those actions and we're in a sort of a waiting mode. Tomorrow's a big day for Washington, and there could certainly be a new action after that. It depends on which way they vote.
Mm-hmm.
That state's insane right now with their commission and what has gone on there with spring bear hunting. Just the process that they've gone through there, and and California is facing essentially a bear ban. Mm-hmm. It's worded differently, where they basically say, well, California hasn't updated its bear management plan. So until we do that, we think we should get rid of bear hunting until there's an updated management plan, which they know takes a lot of time, a lot of money. It's stalling tactics.
Exactly what it is.
They're saying bears are in decline in California, which is insane.
Yeah. Absolutely
insane to think that has happened in the last 10 years. It's only gone up. Anyway, there'll be certainly some actions on that. But right now in California is a controversial bill, SB 856. It looks like a pro hunting bill. However, let me go back to Zoom here. You probably couldn't tell I was looking at my webpage, but
I'm looking at your webpage right now too, so I'm not even looking at you on Zoom.
Yeah. So, the California, it's a wild pig bill it says it makes it easier for you to hunt wild pigs. Basically, it goes in California, it's considered a big game animal. Pigs are, wild pigs are. And this would reclassify it as an exotic animal, basically give you a tag validation. So you pay $15 and sort of like a duck stamp. So you don't need a tag for each wild pig. And it claims to make the depredation permit process easier. So all of that sounds like,
that sounds fantastic.
Might not be too bad.
Yeah.
There's some issues there with reducing it from 25 to 15, because since it is a big game animal, and then if they want to reclassify it, that means the big game management fund account is drastically reduced. So however you feel about that, but that money goes to the management of species. That's how they've set this up, right? Mm-hmm. So there are some issues there. Reclassifying it is strange that they would want to do that, but then also give Fish and Wildlife ruling over now a non-game species, which they don't currently.
Right.
It also in the bill gives them some sort of rulemaking over USDA imports of livestock. And this is where it gets really interesting. So this is where I don't like the bill. This bill was first, I'll get into the guts of this, into the weeds of this, but this was the first bill that I was involved in personally.
Mm-hmm.
And this started in 2018. It was called something else. It was called AB 2805. And at first, when it came out, it was supported by California hunting orgs. They were like, this is great. This is fantastic. Right. And then I'm reading through it, and in there is a section that basically the entire section says this is how clever it gets. It'll say something like, this bill will do this, that. Well, like, okay, well, already all of that's already illegal. But then they'll throw in a sentence in the midst of all of that basically says any type of fenced in hunting or whatever will be banned, will be made illegal. I'm like, all right, hold on a second. Do you mean like, because there's a bunch of organizations or companies here who have, what you'd consider canned hunting operations,
right,
but they don't have wild animals. These are exotics.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually livestock.
Right.
They import them in. They get veterinary certificates. They're tagged. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's livestock. So however you feel about that, it's not a wild game animal.
Right.
They aren't wild pigs. But they get brought into like 1,000-acre ranch that's high fence and everything else, and they have exotic hunts there. I'm like, wait, this is in there. This is strange how they slip that in. And then we found out, in order for this bill, and this could have something to do with it being in California, in order for this bill to not have resistance from the anti-hunting orgs, that's why that was put in there. And that was put in there by an anti-hunting lobbyist to make the bill easier to pass, right?
Yeah.
So I knew about that in 2018. And the hunting orgs immediately were like, oh crap, we don't support this anymore.
Right.
The bill got killed this year. And that was the author of that bill in 2018 was a Republican. So I think probably a lot of the hunting orgs are like, it's got to be a good bill. It's a Republican.
It's
They're
Republican.
on the hunter
It's all
side. Whatever. I was never more pissed off at a Republican in my life. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to ruin businesses for something that has nothing to do, and you're sliding this in there, and you're okay with an anti-hunting, and you're not going to tell anybody that this was inserted by an anti-hunting organization. You got to be kidding me.
Sounds sleazy.
This year, a Democrat authored it, who sometimes actually has current bills right now that are pro-hunting that everyone's okay with.
Mm-hmm.
But he went to Bigelow's office from 2018, got the bill, literally copied it verbatim, and then put this out, did a press release, and everybody, again, I've seen it on Outdoor Life. I've seen it on, like, everyone's promoting it like it's a good bill. I'm like, wait a second, guys. Does anybody, you read the summary of a bill?
Yeah.
And if the summary sounds good, yay, it's good. Like, no. So, oh man. So this is pissing me off
nowadays.
Because, well, people keep looking at it. They're like, I'm reading the bill. I don't see what's wrong with it. I don't see what the problem is. I'm like, all right. So you have to really explain it. And this is what you need to know. This is where it starts and ends for me. An anti-hunting lobbyist put language in there to take away opportunity from whoever it is that goes to these high fence ranches that has nothing to do with wild game whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to these places, and they're like, yeah, do you know who comes here? I mean, anybody can go there, but disabled vets groups all the time come here because they don't have mobility to get around. And It's 1,000 acres. They come, they have fun, they get meat, whatever. Elderly hunters come there. New hunters who have no friends who hunt or parents who hunt or whatever. And they go there. They have a thing called hunt school. And I hate it that I have to explain all this because it shouldn't, like, people should just be like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to support this bill.
Right.
But let me just get emotional. So new hunters who don't have access to people to show them or whatever else, they have this hunting school thing there. Well, they'll go there and teach you gun safety, target acquisition, where you should aim on an animal, butchering, field dressing, the whole thing. So you go get your animal and you'll learn the whole thing top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So now, you're like, all right, well, I can do this. I know how to dress out an animal. I know how to butcher an animal. I know how to take care of the meat and all that. Maybe now, if I really like this, I can go wherever, public land, or get a guide, whatever. And I kind of know what I'm doing right now. But again, you don't even need, this is livestock. You don't even need a hunting tag
exactly
for any of this on these properties. These are legal operations. And I don't even know what I was going to say next, but it's just like, okay, here it is. If you have a problem with that, have you ever gone to the grocery store or a restaurant and got a steak or bought chicken to barbecue? So somebody wants to go to 1,000-acre ranch and try and find their own meat and get it and bring it back. What it's adventures in grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Name it whatever the heck you want. I don't care if you call it hunting or whatever, but it isn't. That has no place in this bill.
Exactly.
And why do we have to appease the anti-hunting crowd? Unreal. I think I know the reason why. Is because hunters have never been able to show their voice or get involved.
Right.
And now it's like, well, you know what? How about when there's a bill, you better put something in there that appeases the hunting crowd, because we're going to start showing up.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of this,
that
right?
Is the point. Yep. That's exactly it.
So full circle on that one I take personal, because I was involved in this in 2018. And that's the first time where I was like, that's when podcasts started happening. And we just created like this. I don't even remember how we did it. I think it was just on social media and letting people know and kind of calling out the hunting organizations. Like, did you guys even read this? And then getting veteran groups involved. And they were like, we're against this. We're standing against it. And it got thrown out, but we got to do it all over again. And it's the same thing. People are like, I'm reading through the bill, or I don't see how this affects me. I'm like,
read the bill.
You don't see how this affects you. Like, do you think the anti-hunting crowd is just, they're done now? Oh, we got that. That's all we wanted. There's nothing next. Like, come on.
See, that's the thing, is
unreal.
People have
rewrite the bill.
People have to educate themselves on this stuff, because, okay, I get it. It sucks to read a bill. I've read many bills, whether it be for healthcare or whether it be for hunting or anything. I've read through these bills, and it sucks to read through these bills, some of these bills. And legislators know that. They know that they're going to make this bill excessively long. You'll see bills that are this thick, and they'll make it that long for a purpose. That purpose is so that nobody reads it, nobody can decipher really what it's saying, and they can slip different crap in there so that they can get it passed. And nobody knows about it. And so that's where I say people have got to get educated on this stuff. And there are avenues, again, that you may not have to read the entire bill, but find places where you can really find out what's truly in that bill. Howl For Wildlife is one of those places where you can actually go and say, okay, what is really in this bill? What is it really truly looking at? Because like on those ones, great point, Charles. Those would be tough, because you have these hunting companies, these outdoor companies or TV shows or whatever supporting these bills. Then you're like, oh, okay, that's really good, but you still got to do your research on it, do your own due diligence on it to see what it truly is. And if that requires you to read that whole bill, do it. Take the time to do it. If you truly are passionate about hunting and outdoors and wildlife, at the end of the day, you really truly need to take the time and read that bill and really understand what's in it, and then make your voice be heard on it.
And to be totally fair, I have read this bill so many times, and each time I have a new question.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm like, does this, am I right on this? And then I go to the people that I know who are involved with this. They break these bills down, and they're involved on the floor, and they're like, no, man, it's still, believe us, like, this is what this means. These are the consequences of this. And then, so again, people, when I posted this bill, they're like acting like, oh, what's the part that bothers you? Or I'm like, listen, this isn't my opinion. This is, I now know from the lawyers of the companies that would be affected, they are there fighting this because they've been told the consequences of this bill. So now these companies, these family-owned businesses, basically that do this stuff, they've now hired lawyers to show up and try and get this changed and try and get it amended. So it's not my opinion of how this is how this will work. This is the consequences of this bill. And in fact, probably the biggest consequence of this bill, the biggest effect to even come out of this bill, is the smallest part inserted into the bill.
Right.
It's not easy. It's not easy to read, especially when there's a bill that amends a current bill, because the thing will be like 85 pages long. Exactly. And it'll just be a scratch out of something. And then they add this, and you're like, oh, shoot, where am I? I got to go back and see what the original. It's not the easiest thing to figure out. And the wording isn't it's above my pay grade a lot of times. So,
but they do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Again, to go back to my
100%.
point, that is all on purpose. They'll use different words that it's hard to understand. They'll take 85 pages and take one sentence, and that's the one sentence that they change, but it's the biggest part of that bill. If you read bills, so I work in healthcare, and I look at all the CMS, Medicare bills, and what's being passed and how it really truly is going to impact my company and my financial status. And it's just exact same thing. You'll have this huge bill, except for it's like 280 pages long, and they'll do the same thing. This one little red line in there that just changes everything. And again, it's all done on purpose, and so you've got to know what you're looking at. You got to know the nitty gritty, the details of these bills, and to be fair, again, most people are not going to do that. So most people need to, do their own research, look at different sites, lean on people like Howl to help you understand what's going on with a specific bill or a specific legislation, and then even after you've done your research on Howl, go find something else out there that, there's lots of information so that you can be educated on these different things, and people, you got to do it. You just have to do it. Sorry, I'm getting emotional too, Charles.
No, it's what it takes.
It really is.
We have to be activists, unfortunately, but we have to be.
If we want to keep enjoying what we enjoy, we have to. And that goes for hunting. That goes for anything that you enjoy. You've got to be active. You cannot be passive in this world, or you'll lose it. Mm-hmm. So, well, I appreciate you sharing all that with us, and so people kind of get an understanding of what Howl For Wildlife is and some of the things that you are focused on. And I was playing around on your website kind of while you were talking there as well. And yeah, there's several bills on there that are currently being reviewed right now that you can go on there. You can get involved. And again, kind of going back to my main point of having you guys on is just to be able to give people that avenue, because we post a lot of this stuff, and we will link your website or that direct page so that people can just click. Makes it easy for people to take action. You can do it from your cell phone. It's very easy, very, very easy to do it. So
yeah, at the end of the day, it's a place where you can go and honestly take less than 10 seconds of your time to make your voice heard on actions around the United States.
Yep. Absolutely.
Or in Canada also, actually now. That's the easiness of it. And we do have an archive section if you want to see the old actions or some of the ones that are in waiting. You can see those as well, where I think I've updated them so you can see, what the results were basically. Nice. Of those things.
One thing I will say when people go on to do that, because you can send that email, but there's that option to edit that email. And I think you guys even put this on your website. Be professional when you're sending those. Make sure that it's not ridiculous, because if you get that way, no one's going to read it, no one's going to listen to it. But if you are professional when you submit those responses, those are the ones that get the attention.
Yeah, and the emails are set up. We're working on improving this all the time, but there's multiple emails in the back end. So if you come, it kind of depends on your cookies, but if you come back to the action page, so basically each user that goes to the action page, their pre-drafted email, if you don't want to edit, will probably be different, because we have a ton of them set up. So that also makes it more personal. Nice. But it's definitely better if you edit it. What I like to do, I'm going to start kind of promoting, is just at the top of the email, don't change our email if you don't want to, but at the top, put a little something about yourself. Then it's completely different.
Exactly.
The whole thing's different at the top.
And it's personal.
And it's personal.
Yep.
So, it's cool. Thank you.
What if you could build a little place in there that would allow you to just, it kind of prompts people to do that. Just thinking.
There's some, so if we ever get to our final product, if we can do that, we'll have all that in there, as long as it remains simple.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, now that we've kind of got the introduction of what Howl is, I'm sorry, Charles, but you're going to kind of be stuck with me for the long road, because I think with any bills that's coming up, I'd love to jump on a podcast and just talk about what's going on with a specific bill. And honestly, it's kind of the way that I feel like I can take action. I mean, we have a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and we can get them the information. I can go on, yes, as one person and do that and have my voice be heard. But I also feel like that you and I can make a big impact by letting everybody know what's going on. So you're kind of stuck with me now. I'm going to be reaching out saying, hey, I saw you posted this on the website. Let's jump on a podcast and chat about it.
No problem at all. Honestly, it's the main, I think the most important role that I can play is doing this, is building relationships with anybody who reaches out to me. And whether they have a question about something they want to call or what they want to do a podcast, I try to make it as personal as I can, because, human relationships are important, and not everybody does that, so I just, that's where I think I'm, can play my role. I like doing that.
It makes a big impact. It's the reason that you're growing like you are. I can tell you that, because it is personal. People can reach out to you. So I reached out on Instagram. Charles was back to me in no time. Yeah, let's get together and talk. And it was very personal. We had, you exchanged phone numbers. And so it's very personal. They take this very seriously. And again, Charles, I think that's why you are growing the way you are. So not that I'm in any place to give you recommendations, but I would recommend keeping up what you're doing, because I think you're going to do amazing things.
Cool. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. It's all extremely, it's all humbling to have so many people reaching out, honestly.
It's awesome. Very awesome. Cool. So best place to get in touch with you guys is the website, howlforwildlife.org. What other avenues do we have? Instagram, social media, email?
Yeah, Instagram is howl_org. That's where I am. That's when I'm on the most. Most everything on Facebook is just a repeat, and same thing with Twitter. I don't go to Twitter. It's just a repeat of whatever, is
auto post
on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's an auto post. And that's it.
Cool. Very cool, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on and just sharing with everybody a little bit about Howl. I hope that everybody listening to this podcast is a little bit more energized to participate and again, have their voice be heard. If you guys have any questions, reach out. If I can't answer them, I'll go to the man himself and let him answer the questions for me. But Charles, really appreciate you taking the time with me. And I'm serious. Let's jump on podcasts frequently and talk about some of the stuff going on.
Let me know when you want to. I'm here.
Okay.
100%. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, my pleasure, man. Let's talk soon, and I'll let you back to your day.
Cool.
All right. See you, buddy.